The season is over, at least the regular season is, so it's time to take a look back at my breakout and fake out picks. Last spring, I presented you all with 5 hitters that I liked, 5 pitchers that I liked, and 5 players that I disliked for 2022. Just like last year, I'll be using my very complex thumbs up or thumbs down rating system to grade my picks' accuracy. I can also go up to 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down if a grade is particularly extreme, or assign a neutral no grade if the result is inconclusive. So to get started, we're going to grade the 5 players that I disliked coming into 2022. Where was I right and where was I wrong? The first player I disliked was Houston's Christian Javier, and I was pretty dead wrong on this one. Javier ascended into the rotation in late April and basically never looked back, posting a 2.54 ERA and 148 innings pitched. Among players with at least 25 starts, he finished tied for 10th in ERA, and he posted by far the best FIP of his career thanks to some big reductions in walks and home runs. This is going to be a 2 thumbs down. I wanted to give you all picks that weren't super obvious at the time, and I thought a young pitcher with an electric arm like Javier would be fun to play the contrarian on, but it didn't work in this case. Frank Schwindel had an insane rookie season, finishing 6th in Rookie of the Year voting as a 29-year-old after posting 1,000 OPS in 56 games with the Cubs. However, his StatCast data was setting off massive alarm bells, so I predicted that he wouldn't be good enough to be a regular player, and I was right. Schwindel posted a 78 OPS plus as a first baseman, giving him a negative WAR by all measures. He spent much of the season demoted to the minors and was eventually granted a release from the Cubs last month. I'm actually going to give this one just 1 thumbs up instead of 2, just because I think I didn't go out on a huge limb for this pick. The regression was expected, although I will admit, even I'm a little surprised his 2022 went so poorly. Unlike Christian Javier, my Ian Anderson pick worked out in my favor. Coming into 2022, Ian Anderson was a 23-year-old phenom with a career ERA of 3.25 and some immense playoff performances for my Atlanta Braves. But having watched Anderson, I didn't trust him. He has good stuff, but pitches inefficiently by nibbling around the edges. He finished this season with a 5 ERA, and like Schwindel, ended up being demoted to AAA for a stretch. Of course, as a Braves fan personally, I take no joy in this, but it's 2 thumbs up. I pretty much nailed Ian Anderson. I also nailed my Jared Kelenic pick. You gotta understand, a lot of people actually had him as like a dark horse all-star coming into this season. He struggled mightily in his rookie campaign, but had a good September and, perhaps more importantly, serious prospect pedigree in a time where it seems like most top prospects excel in the majors very quickly. But the weaknesses were apparent. Kelenic slashed 142, 221, 313 for an OPS plus of 55 in 2022. He spent a lot of his year in AAA Tacoma after flailing at breaking pitches in the majors. I'm just not a believer in his game at the moment. So this is going to be 2 thumbs up once again. I don't want to see anyone fail, but I got this one right. Finally, we have Garrett Crochet, the flame-throwing reliever for the White Sox. Here's the timeline. I posted the 5 players I disliked on March 30th. He left Chicago's spring training game with elbow discomfort the next day, then underwent Tommy John surgery shortly thereafter. He didn't pitch in 2022, but it's possible some of the warning signs I saw in 2021 were indicators that all wasn't well. I can maybe give myself a little credit for that, but not enough to warrant a grade. This one's going to be neutral, and I wish Mr. Crochet all the best with his rehab. So overall, a good performance on the players I disliked. Maybe I'm just the #1 hater in Major League Baseball. Okay, now for the more positive side. Here are my grades for the 5 pitchers that I liked coming into the 2022 season. I forgot to record this part, so I'm doing it now. We'll be kicking things off with Patrick Sandoval, who I liked on the basis of his repertoire. I believed his slider and changeup were excellent, and his fastball was, well, good enough. Sandoval had a really nice 2022, finishing with a 2.91 ERA and 3.09 FIP in 148 innings. He continued his progression from the previous season, and although he wasn't always the most consistent, he established himself as a solid number 2 in the Angels' rotation behind Ohtani. I think I'm going to give myself 2 thumbs up on this one. It might seem a bit generous, but in exchange, I'll be critical for the rest of my pitching picks. Alex Cobb salvaged this pick. After hitting the injured list in May with an ERA well over 5 despite some truly elite peripherals, he put up a 3.05 ERA across his last 20 starts. Cobb had one of those years where those under-the-hood numbers were far more impressive than the basic run prevention stats, and I suspect the Giants' poor defense played into that a little bit. In the end, his rate stats were very similar to the numbers he put up in 2021 with the Angels. This is one of the toughest picks to grade out of the bunch, but seeing as there wasn't actually much of an improvement from last season, I'm gonna give it a neutral score. Again, being critical here. With a little more luck, this could have been a fantastic year. My next pick was Austin Gomber. Are you sure I picked Austin Gomber? Seems like I would know better than to pick Austin Gomber. The thing about Austin Gomber is that every 5 to 10 games or so, he transforms into the worst pitcher you've ever seen. He ended up flunking out of the Rockies rotation this year, and although he did a little bit better as a reliever, it wasn't enough to save his numbers. Gomber finished 2022 with a 5.56 ERA, a whole run higher than his 2021 performance. Even in Coors, that's a well below average 84 ERA+. The verdict is pretty clear-cut. 2 thumbs down. The only consolation is that some of his ERA estimator type stats were basically unchanged from last year. Bailey Ober's a tough pick to grade. He finished the season with a 3.21 ERA and 2.92 FIP, which is awesome, but he only made 11 starts due to injury. Apart from the Bailey solidarity we share, I admired Ober because he's a textbook pound-the-zone control guy, and his huge frame and extension make up for his unimpressive velocity. It's very unfortunate that he missed a large chunk of the season because, again, when he played, numbers look really good. Ugh, this one is so painful. It's gonna be a neutral grade. He threw 56 innings. It's not enough to draw conclusions for a starter. My hope is that this pick turns out like last year when I picked Brady Singer. That pick didn't work for me at the time, but Singer went on to have a very good 2022. Hopefully with Bailey Ober, I was just a year early for the true breakout. My annual reliever pick went to Brooks Raley, who had a good season for the Rays. A lot of his statistical improvement is actually just regression to the mean. He always had encouraging peripherals with the Astros, even when his ERA was all out of whack. With Tampa, he finally had a year where his talent matched his run prevention, posting a 2.68 ERA in 53 innings. He actually could have finished with an ERA under 2 if not for a couple rough outings in late September. This is going to be a thumbs up. Could have been 2 if he finished the season stronger, but 1 will suffice. My pitcher picks were a mixed bag. Some good, some bad, some frustratingly inconclusive. Next up is the 5 hitters that I liked, which was actually my strongest segment in 2021. Sadly, I think it's my weakest performance in 2022. Here's why. I kicked off 5 hitters I like with Edmundo Sosa, and unfortunately some of that pick was based on bad data. One reason I liked Sosa was that he had 93rd percentile max exit velocity in 2021, demonstrating raw power potential, but looking at his distribution of exit velocities throughout his career, it's clear his supposed 115 mph batted ball was a mismeasure on StatCast's part. He's not the slugger that I thought he was. That's especially unfortunate because the script I had in mind came to life. Paul DeJong struggled, but Sosa did too, which actually ended up opening the door for Brendan Donovan and Nolan Gorman in the Cardinals' infield. Sosa, meanwhile, was cast away and actually tore it up with the Phillies to end the year. His final season stats were characterized by good fielding numbers to give him respectable WAR, but a well below average 83 OPS+. Miraculously, thanks to his stint with the Phils, he's only gonna be 1 thumbs down. I think he can be a good player, but he's just not quite who I thought he was. I felt so good about picking Josh Donaldson to have a big season last spring. I liked the trade for the Yankees because Donaldson's batted ball data with the Twins in 2021 looked very strong. I think the aging curve got to him in 2022. His average exit velocity dropped by 3.5 miles per hour, and his strikeout rate saw a massive increase as well. He finished the season as a below-average hitter by OPS+, which was shocking to me. Good defense at third saved some of his value, but he just didn't hit enough, and the Yankees fans understandably turned on him for much of the year. The verdict here is going to be 2 thumbs down. Donaldson's 2022 fell way below my expectations. Also falling below expectations was Jorge Soler. Soler had quite the journey in 2021, struggling with Kansas City, excelling with Atlanta, and eventually winning World Series MVP. He had a 99 OPS plus in the regular season that year, basically average, and I thought he'd be an above-average power bat for the Marlins in 2022. It didn't happen though. Soler slashed 207, 295, 400 for a 95 OPS plus, although I will point out he only played 72 games due to a back injury. In the end, this is going to be just 1 thumbs down. The offensive performance was similar to Donaldson's, but my expectations for Soler were lower and he did get hurt, so 1 thumbs down it is. Tyler Stevenson to the rescue. Stevenson only played 50 games in 2022, but he had a .319 batting average, .372 on base, and .482 slugging for a 130 OPS plus in those 50 games. Some of you may be crying, small sample or unimpressive StatCast, but I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm starving out here. I'm going to take what I can get. Among catchers with at least 50 games played, he finished 3rd in OPS plus, trailing only Danny Jansen and William Contreras, and finishing just ahead of JT Realmuto and Adley Rutschman. By the skin of my teeth, I have managed to make a hitter pick that doesn't suck. 1 thumbs up for Tyler Stevenson, and a season to forget for the Cincinnati Reds. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Steven Kwan was my best pick of the year, a pick good enough to rival the great Austin Riley breakout of 2021. Steven Kwan was a relative unknown last spring, especially compared to top prospects like Julio Rodriguez, Adley Rutschman, and Bobby Witt Jr., but he put together a huge rookie campaign. Kwan was MLB's 32nd best hitter by F-WAR and 20th by R-WAR. He was tied for 12th among all qualified hitters in on-base percentage, and he may very well win the Gold Glove in left field. Kwan was a revelation for the Guardians, proving that his contact-based approach from the minors could be converted into major league success. He's the first qualified rookie batter since Dustin Pedroia to have more walks than strikeouts, and he's a big reason why Cleveland won the Central. You might not have known who Steven Kwan was when I talked about him last March. He wasn't even a consensus top 100 prospect, and he hadn't yet taken a big league at bat, but you know him now. He's getting 2 thumbs up because I only have 2 thumbs. Steven Kwan is the man, and I feel honored just to be even a little bit associated with his success. Also, my artwork of him was pretty spectacular. So, what's the final tally here? Well, for the 5 players I disliked, I finished with an aggregate of +3 thumbs up. For the 5 pitchers I liked, I finished with +1 thumbs up, and for the 5 hitters, it totaled up to 1 thumbs down. This gives me a final grade of +3 for this round of picks. On paper, this is a worse performance than last year when I finished with a +8, but I also think I made more interesting selections and graded myself more critically in 2022. You're never going to be right all the time, but I hope I was at least fair and entertaining. After all, that's really what this is. Entertainment. And whether you're more entertained by my successes or my failures, I'm glad you're watching. There's more to come because I still have to react to my foolish 50.